Hello everyone, welcome to our, I think it's the third accounting class, managerial accounting class. We're going to talk about the cost behavior, but I don't want to get to the bookish language too specific this early. So let's just relax and talk about general managerial accounting and what we can use as accounting major student. You're stuck with it for a while and you're going to be stuck with it for a longer time, so you better learn it well. But even for non-accounting class students, I think it's still important for you because you might be doing business later and you might be have interest to have your own business, or later on I think everybody wants to be promoted at least to manage a department, manage a team, manage a company. So those are all great, but without managerial accounting information, don't get me wrong, I didn't like managerial accounting so much because it's too tedious, but this is really useful. Okay, this is really useful. So I would really recommend you study it well. Let's give a few examples. If I ask you, do you want to have your own business? I think some people might say yes, but what business do you want to be in? For all the business, it's mostly they're going to be similar. Similar in the sense that everybody knows to have a successful business, you got to sell well. You may be selling a product like sneakers, computers, models, watches, cars, right? Or houses, or you might be selling services. For example, like the realtors, they sell their consulting service, right? Consulting firms, accounting firms, auditing firms, whatever, they're selling service. But anyway, tangible or intangible, you have your product that you can sell. And when you know your business, I know having sales is most important for the survival of a company, but should you really care so much about how to sell? Or is it really vital for you to make sure your business can be going on for a long time, can survive for a long time? I don't really think so. I don't think it's the only single most important factor here, because if you think about a product, how many you can sell, what sales you can get after you do enough research is at the most 50% in your hands. Why? We know that, for example, for have sales, what gives you sales? Your price multiplied with units sold. So we all know from simple economies or from life observation, what happens for a commodity when the price goes up? Sales volume goes down. If the price goes down, sales volume goes up. We know that already, and we understand why. So if you think about it, right? Usually, if you price your price too high, your fee for each unit, you're making more money. You sold for each unit you sold, you make more money, but you are risking it. You are not selling enough, right? And vice versa, if you price it too low, right? Not to mention about how many you can sell, but if you price it lower than your cost, the more you sell and the more you lose. There's no point. So if you think about it, when you have your business, you are the boss of the price, but your price has to be carefully set, right? And then you hope your store, your place will have enough traffic, your reputation is good, people like your price, and people like to buy from your place. But to run a business, what will keep you awake in the middle of the night? What will keep you thinking while you are driving, when you are talking to other people, is going to be the cost. Because you have so much to worry about. For example, you're going to have employees, you're going to pay them. Right? If you pay them bi-weekly, then you will suffer from this period thing like every other week. And also, you have rent. You worry about this because nowadays we see coronavirus, right? Many business close, and for them, they are suffering every day because with no income coming in, meaning that they are just paying rent for earning nothing. So it's a big part about it. You worry about this. You make money, you sell your stuff. Hopefully you can raise enough to pay off rent, to pay people's salary. Then there's enough for you to bring food back. So we have to think about all these. If you cannot get it straight, not only that your business won't last too long, but also it's possible you make your price wrong and you won't survive at all. Okay? So let's talk about some business maybe everybody wants to see. I used to collect sneakers. So let me show you some stuff. The big sneakers. I sold most of them, just kept those two pairs. One is this, more like a darker color, and the other is, I will show you later, but if you want, I can show you next time, but the other is lighter color. So let's say, I still like these, but with me getting married and work stuff. I don't really got time. And being in Texas is another very important reason. Being in Houston, there's no really, everything doesn't allow to wear those things too much. Our winter is so short, and after winter is summer again. So that's all about it. Okay, I love Houston, don't get me wrong, but the weather is, I saved a lot of money buying coats, no complaints. So if you want to be in the business of sneakers, so you pick your place, you pick your store location, you want to open up your store, and you find your supplier already, your really close friend or knows you really well, they sell to you, hey, John, you know what, right? For those sneakers, whichever you want, no matter how hot, how limited they are in the market, I'm gonna supply to you at $100 per pair. I don't care, I don't mind whatever price tag you put on it, but I sell you for $100 per pair. Fair? Maybe fair. So, you agree. So you think about it, picking store people like, of course, you know that already. What I can say is, tell you is like traffic is not only reason, because think about it, you have your store next to Home Depot or Best Buy or Lowe's, right? You're gonna have a lot of traffic in the neighborhood, but probably now we'll go to your place to buy sneakers. Just think about it, right? Be careful with these. Then after you open your, what's the price you're gonna get? We talked about it, the interaction between price and sales volume. Is that a price higher? Volume goes down, and vice versa. So you really want to have the best of spot for you to have enough profit. But what is a profit? A profit is your sales or total revenue subtract total cost. So revenue is simple enough. Price per unit multiplied with units sold. In our case, it is price per pair multiplied with pairs sold. 2 size 10. What do you think? Do you think I made a wise decision to keep the 2 pairs? I think so. Not too flashy, not too whatever. Even I'm almost 40, so even when I'm 40, I can still wear these, and so in other people's eyes, they know that I'm outdated. I don't know, 20 years ago, fashion man, something like this. So I like these. It doesn't matter how other people see it. As long as you like, I think it's all good. Okay. So you have to worry about your cost. We'll talk about detailed reasons, but at this moment, you want to make sure you set the price. You are the boss of the price, but you want to make sure your price is reasonably high than the cost, which means you have to know your cost. You have to know there's so much detail. You cannot under-calculate it, because if you under-calculate your cost, right, you become too optimistic, you set your price too low, and if it's lower than the real cost of yours, then you are screwed. You cannot calculate your cost in a too conservative way, meaning that if you cannot miscalculate your cost in the way that it calculated too high, because if you thought your price was too high, higher than it actually is, then it limits your ability in the pricing competition, right? You have to keep your price high, and if for the same price you keep your price higher than your competitors, then no one will buy from you. You're losing money anyway. And to have a sneaker store, if it's really small and you don't mind, you're single, you don't mind open up your store at 10, I think it's good. 10 in the morning and close it at 10, maybe 8 p.m. in every day. So, okay, you can do it yourself. And so open a store, what's the cost? Per pair, we said per pair, it's going to be $100. The more you sell, the higher the cost will be for you, total cost. Okay, but per pair is still $100, right? And to keep your store open every day, you got to turn the AC on and you're going to turn the lights on. So that's going to be utility, probably fixed. And maybe if you have a small store in a nice place, so let's say every month, you pay 10,000 rents. So that's gonna be your cost as well. So if you think about it, you have $100 per pair, right? That's your variable cost. The more you sell, the higher it is gonna be, right? On the other hand, no matter how many you sell zero, you sell 100 million pairs, you sell 1 million pairs, no matter what happens, your rent will still remain the same, right? Will remain the same, being that we said, did we say 10,000? 10,000 per month, right? And the utility will still be the same. Let's say, for example, 2,000 per month, all right? Sounds good. So 12,000 per month. That's your fixed cost, because no matter how many you sell, no matter what activities you have, it's going to be 12,000 fixed every month. So yeah, and there are of course some other costs, right? For example, for rent, we call it fixed. but it might not be fixed from the big picture because, for example, at some point of time, you become really successful, right? Your store is not enough for the traffic for all the shoes you want to display, right? You want to store. So what do? You buy your neighbor's store. From that moment on, your cost as your sales volume goes up, right? Your cost jumps from 10,000 maybe to 20,000, and your utility probably jump from 2,000 to 3,000. Can we see that? So when we talk about fixed costs, we are talking at a relevant range. They may or may not always be fixed, but that's a small issue we talk about. My point is, if we think about it, for a pair of sneakers you buy at $100 per pair, you put a price tag there, you have to make sure every pair you make certain amount of money, and based on how many pairs you can sell, the money you collect, you have to pay utility, you have to pay rent, right? And then the rest is gonna be in your pocket. So you want to make sure all these are paid off first, and then you can pay off to yourself. Okay, that's all I'm saying. All right, let's look at some examples and get through some more detailed discussion. Okay, so let's take a slightly different example. From last chapter, we learned, and we totally understand, whenever we make, for us to calculate cost, our total cost will be direct material and direct labor, because you're going to have some material to make some new stuff out of it, and you have to, most of the time, some human beings involved in the production process to make what happens, just like IKEA furniture, right? And then there will be overheads. For example, to have your place, you need the utility, you need a workshop place which you pay lease to other people, and also you might have, for example, maintenance parts, whatever, overhead, right? So basically, direct material, direct labor, they can be directly traced to the product itself per unit. And the overhead is about production, it's about manufacturing, but you cannot really directly pinpoint overhead to per units, right? So that's the difference between overhead and the direct costs, material and the labor, okay? So keep that in mind, all right? So let's use this cheap plastic chair, for example, right? It's pure plastic. So we can easily sort of visualize how it is manufactured, right? Say you want to be in the business for making that, okay? You have your sales channel already. HEB agrees to take your commodity, and Walmart, other places can sell it for you as well, of course, with a nice commission, right? So you want to take a look at it. You want to figure out how much it takes to make, and you want to make a decision that if I sell, how much is my price? Ask yourself, what does it take to make a chair like that? I think we can easily see that. First, we need probably some material, which is going to be like those plastic, same color, some stuff like this, right? Those are plastic, like I said. And the second, you need human labor involved, I think, right? To me, I don't know if it's all machine or not, but you need some human labor involved, right? That's labor. And a plastic, let's assume each pair, they need to consume 2 pounds of plastic, and the plastic price is, for this particular thing, is going to be 50 cents per pound, right? So per chair wise, we can see that's, 2 pounds per chair, 2 pounds per chair, and each pound is something like this, right? So we can see that for each chair, it's going to be $1. That's for the raw material, okay? And for labor, we can see that, let's assume for each worker, they do 10 minutes work, 1 hour has 60 minutes, so 1/6, right, hours. For each worker, spend 1/6 of each hour, they can make a chair. And each worker, the rate is $12 per hour, which is pretty generous in Texas. I think in Texas it's $7, 15 cents or 25 cents. No, 15 cents, I think, right? A quarter, $7.25, I think. So it's pretty generous already. But we know that for each worker that is paid $12 per hour, they spend 1/6 of hour to do it. So for each chair, we know that it's $2 for each chair. So again, you can see we call those direct labor, direct material for a reason, because you can exactly pinpoint them to each product, okay? To each product, all right? And let's stop right here and talk about why we need to know these, all right? So those are ideal situation, 2 pounds for each chair, 10 minutes, one worker, 10 minutes for each chair. Do you think in real world things will go as smooth as you planned? Most likely not, right? So what do we want to know cost for? You know cost, you won't be fooled. And you know cost, you can look at it later, see what happened, and you come up with ways to fix it, right? If you see, for example, if you see your cost is too high, right, higher than you thought, you can look at the breakdown. And if you figure out, for example, uh, plastic price remains at 50 cents per pound, but somehow it's more than 2 pounds plastic used for each chair, then you know that there's waste going on. Some people is not working efficiently, effectively, right? So you can talk to the manufacturing department, for example, discipline them financially, make sure they do it effectively, all right? Or I'll take another example, right? The labor cost is a little bit too high for you, right? But so you take a look into it, every worker appears still to be using 10 minutes, right? Still to be using 10 minutes for each chair, but the price of the labor is going too high is because for somehow you're paying everybody 15 bucks per hour, 15 bucks per hour instead of 12, which is causing you to lose money. So in this scenario, right, those who are at the workshops, who are at the manufacturing department, they should not be responsible because they don't decide employees' rights. They might affect if they do their work well or not well. People might be using 10 minutes or more or less on it. That's manufacturing department's responsibility, how to use the workers well, effectively, efficiently, right? But if the workers are signed given a federal contract, then they should get. It's HR department's fault, right? So with the cost of knowledge, you can do all these, and you can make sure who to talk to and who to discipline and who to reward and by how much. Okay, we're gonna talk about these later. So you look at all these, you figure, okay, it seems plastic and the labor seems total cost is $3 per pair. Does that mean I'll be fine if priced at a 4? Geez, it's like a 33% markup already. Or if I become a little more ambitious, I might mark it up to, for example, $6. That's going to be $100 profit margin if you think about it. So is that true? And maybe this guy, for example, he's a nice guy. He priced his product at 5, and he did it for a while, and he come talk to me. Said, Joe, helping me out, right? For everything, I know material cost me $1 per chair, and the labor cost me $2 per chair. So I'm marking my stuff at $5 per chair, making $2 every chair. Somehow I'm still losing money. I don't know why. Can you tell me, right? So I probably tell this guy, hey, John, think about it, right? Think about it. Is there or are there any other missing costs that you can tell me that every month that costs money to flow out of your bank account? So John, think about it. He's like, okay, now I see, right? Every day I have the assembly line, I have to turn the AC on, and people like, I have to use gas because some people to cook, and I have, water, right? Tap water, whatever stuff. So those cost me money too, all right? And I also, my factory, my warehouse is leased from other people, right? So that costs me money too. Every month I pay it. So indeed, my cost is more than just plastic and the labor, or my cost is more than just direct material and direct labor, right? So John woke up, look at his cost, right? So it's 5,000 for utility per month, and it's 20,000 per month for the land for factory lease, right? So here are some other cost components for John's business. Okay, so now we have some idea, right? I tell John, think about it. What happens if you sell 1,000 chairs, right? It means that for the 1,000 chairs, utility per chair is $5, right? And the rent per chair is $20. So if you can only sell 1,000 per chair, I would recommend you that price your product higher, at least no lower than 1 plus 2 plus 5 plus 20, $28. You got to price higher than that to really make some money, okay? And or if you really have a big business, for example, you can sell 10,000 chairs per month, right? Then if you think about it, utility per chair becomes 50 cents and the rent per chair becomes $2, right? So what you can do is you have to make sure your price is more than $5.50. 1 plus 2 plus 50 cents plus 2. You see my point, right? So this time we are having the cost into two parts: direct labor, direct material. Here we are talking about plastic and the worker, right? Their cost increases as the number of units increases, sold or produced increase, right? On the other hand, so no matter how many you sell, how many you make, the per unit price cost is going to be the same, right? $1 each chair from the material and the $2 each chair, $2 each chair for the labor, right? On the other hand, so those are the variable costs we talked about. They have a fixed variable rate, right? On the other hand, if we look at a utility and we look at the rents, one thing we notice is that no matter how little you sell or how many you sell, the price, the cost for these will be exact the same, right? So which means tell us the more you make, the more you sell, you're better off because those fixed costs, if you allocate them, they're going to be evenly distributed among all the products, right? So if you can really make a lot, sell a lot, each product will be distributed less, all right? So John knows, right? Here are all the costs I missed. So if I have to think about it based on how many I can sell, then there's what we can do. So let's break the cost down a little bit, right? Total costs, like I said, equals to variable costs plus fixed costs. What are variable costs? In a nutshell, variable costs are the costs which will vary as you have more activity in the company, or productivity, or number of units, or some people call it cost drivers, right? We're going to go through a little bit more detail later, but we can understand those concepts. What are fixed costs? Fixed costs are no matter how you change your activity, how you change your production, it's going to be the same. So again, direct the material, direct the labor, the other variable costs we talked about in the chair context, and then rent and utility, the other fixed costs we talked about, right? So total cost equals to these, and the variable cost equals to variable rate multiplied with number of cost drivers. And in our context, again, if you think about it, right? Material $1 per chair and the labor $2 per chair. So the variable rate is $3 per chair in our context, okay? So for the chair, as you can see, right? So again, that's what I said. And the fixed cost is utility plus rent, which is about 25,000 in our context, right? So let's take a look at what is profit. Profit is revenue minus total cost, right? And the revenue equals to price multiplied with number of drivers, number of products sold, all right? And the total cost equals to variable rates multiplied, we talked about already. So then what we can see is profits equals to, right, number of products sold multiplied with the difference between price and the variable rates. Then the multiplication, you will subtract fixed cost from that. It's going to give you profit just based on those simple mathematics expression here, right? It's quite easy, all right? So what does this, so what, how does it help us? How does it help us, right? So the equation here is going to be for next chapter, we're going to talk about it. But here, let's at least recognize cost patterns, right? Because one thing I said, right? When you start operation, it's going to be different. It's going to be less than ideal. It's going to be very different from what you expected. Always something goes wrong, goes different. Hopefully they are in the good direction, but you know Murphy's rule, most of the things don't go better than you expected, okay? But we need to, so for you to run your business, especially when you're pretty new in your business, I think it's very, very important for you to do an observation, look at the historical numbers to see whatever you did wrong, whatever your estimates were wrong, and to figure out some important factors from the historical numbers, right? And this equation here, where's the equation here? Yeah, okay, here. This equation here, the headline, will give us some hints about how to do this, right? And we see this already. If we assume the total cost only have variable cost and a fixed cost, of course, reality is going to be more complicated. But if we make the simplified assumption, right, how are we going to do this? So let's take a look at the example next page, right? We call, so this is whatever production you want to call, okay? So let's say this guy they sell more higher level chairs. Let's say they're making higher level chairs, right? So they want to know, they did it for a year, but it was never smart enough or wise enough to really figure out their variable rates and fixed costs. So now after a year, they finally come to us, wants to do it, right? So we have January all the way to February here. And on the second column, we see cost driver activity level. Let's just call it how many chairs manufactured, okay? And the third column, total cost of cost item, let's just say the total cost of chairs, right? So for a company like this, January, it cost them total 15,500, and February 16,000, and March 17,000, all the way to December 19,000, right? So that's one thing we know. And we know that different months have different activities, so meaning that how many products they make, right? So we can think about this, right? How do we know what is? So first, let's recall this. Total cost equals to variable rates multiplied with number of cost drivers plus fixed costs, right? So meaning that if we have January there, January should fit in this pattern. If we have February there, it should roughly fit in this pattern as well. So fixed costs in January, February, March, all the 12 months should be the same, and the variable rates should be fixed theoretically in all the months, right? So no problems for us. And then we know the number of drivers already, January 670, December 705. So we should be able to fix it. But the reality is going to be a little bit different because, it's going to be scattered. It's not going to be linear, right? Because someday, for example, something might be wrong. You have a worker who was sick, right? If he's sick, some people might have to work overtime, right? Then your rate average will be a bit higher, right? And sometimes some people becomes more efficient, they save some material. Sometimes people are less efficient, they waste some materials, right? Sometimes raw material price goes up, sometimes raw material price goes down, right? Sometimes, when you're really busy, you have a hard time to find temporal hire, so you need to pay more money, use contractor, right? So all these things considered, in reality, the numbers won't be exactly what you want, but still to understand what is behind it. We want to get an idea of what is the variable rate for the business and what are the fixed costs for the business, right? So how do we decide? We call it high-low method, right? What we do is we assume, right? For example, if everything was busy, then we have to fight for resource, right? Then resource prices, labor, material will be more expensive. So if everybody is fighting for that, meaning that either market there's not enough supply, which means it's going to be the lowest activity, the extreme one, or on the market everybody is making that, right? Which means it's going to be the highest activity one, right? So this extremes, right? And then on the other hand, right? If nobody wants the stuff, nobody wants to make it, meaning that there's too much labor in the market, there's too much material in the market, right? What's going to happen, right? Either everybody is taking advantage of the cheap price, just making everything they can make, right? Hey, labor is cheap, let's just make more because they're cheap, right? Or, for example, no one cares about it, no one does it because there's abundance in the market already. So extremes again, right? So what we do in this high-low method is we just take the two extremes of activity, cost drivers, right? And what we assume is two extremes represents two ends of different scenarios. So everything normal will be just between it. Okay, will be just between it. So by looking at two different extremes, we get an idea of the overall picture. We are not exaggerating, we are not underestimating everything, right? So here in our case, the two extreme cases I have voted already is February 590 units, and we have August 110 units here, right? And keep in mind, it's February and August we are taking a look at. For both months, we still assume they have the same variable rates, right? labor plus material, that they have the same, right? And they will have the same fixed cost. In both 2 months, the differences are, right? In February, there were only 590 products made, and in August, there were 710 products made. And due to the difference in the products, in February, the cost were 16,000, and in August, the costs were 18,400, right? So if you subtract February from August, right? What you can have is you're gonna know the difference between the total cost will be 2,400, and the fixed costs, no matter it's high months or low months, will be the same, so it's netted off. And we know that the only thing is variable rate multiplied with 120, which is difference in terms of activity level of products, will give you 2,400, right? So we know variable rate of each unit is $20, right? And if you put the $20 in either the high months February or the low months February or the high months August, you will get fixed cost equal to 4,200. So in this way, we know that hey, for this kind of business, right, variable rate is $20 per unit, and the fixed cost is going to be 42,000, right? So with those knowledge in mind, if you are the boss, the owner, the one responsible for the business, you got a better idea of how to price your products in a wise way. All right. So today is at the end of the today. So that's all about it. That's a cost for drivers analysis. I know it's not an exhaustive list of whatever in the book, but I don't want to cover everything in the book. I don't want to take away the from you the pleasure of reading and exploring new, of course, fun accounting knowledge. Okay. So other things are pretty easy. With those, you can do well. Feel free to ask your questions. Okay. All right. Thank you.